Greetings, brothers and sisters. 'Tis I, Sister Shell, here to bring another one of our famous gaming backlogs. Monarch Bina is still decommissioned. I long for the day we may be reunited in battle, but for now, I must undertake this journey alone. You can say that Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 has consumed me, and I'm loving every second of it. Playing as a souped-up Space Marine equipped with all kinds of firepower, facing a swarm of Tyranids, brought out my primal instincts to be an angel of death. I know there have been a lot of games under the Warhammer banner, especially with its rich and long history. But having played hundreds of hours of Helldivers 2 and playing mostly shooters, I found Space Marine 2 to be the most appealing. Naturally, I took a Warhammer lore crash course, shout out to MajorKill, and played the first Space Marine to prep. Having played both games, I realized that Space Marine 2 is just a 2011 game with a 2024 paint job. Whoa, okay, before you brand me as a heretic, let me explain. Let's start with the first Space Marine. From the moment Titus dropped into the battlefield, I was immersed. I know I use that word a lot, but I was immersed, okay? There's no other word for it. Space Marine does a great job at letting you embody this unstoppable war machine. I tore through one orc horde after the other and bathed in their blood. It's far from perfect, because even for its time, it didn't have the features I think it needed. Sure, excluding the cover system is lore accurate, since Space Marines are known as indestructible warriors. But orcs can swarm you easily once they close the gap, and you will eventually get overrun. You will go down swinging though, and get a life lesson from Titus. The story is mediocre at best, and the voice acting shuffles between extremely wooden
I've saved some orcs for you
and overly animated.
Get off my ship, Space Marine!
Putting all these aside, it's still a nice, simple AAA hack-and-slash shooter with a linear story, much like the titles of that time. But its simplicity is not necessarily a bad thing, because it is part of the game's charm. Now, Space Marine 2 took the charm of the first game, tweaked some parts, and slapped a new coat of paint. It more or less rehashes what was established in the first game, but the sequel introduced a parry system and the bolt pistol follow-ups, which are much needed improvements. I said before how easily you can get overwhelmed, but this time, timing your parries, using the follow-ups, and knocking back enemies with heavy attacks gives you more room to reposition and thin out the Tyranid swarm. Additionally, Space Marine 2 follows a straightforward campaign like its predecessor, but with improved voice acting.
My pledge is eternal service.
The lines are still campy, but for some reason, it just works. Oh, and this is something that I don't really care much for, but maybe for y'all, it might. But the haptic feedback in the PS5 lets you feel the weight of this colossal unit of a man, even when you're just moving. Shooting and attacking are much more responsive and, like I said, feel good with the haptic feedback. These features may be overlooked at times, but it's a great surprise that, to me, elevated the game's immersiveness. There are a couple more features that were refined in Space Marine 2, like the PvE and the PvP modes, but you can check our official review for our thoughts on that. Spoiler alert, we liked it. If there is to be taken away from these two games is that sometimes all we need is simplicity. Both Space Marine games are great stepping off points for anyone who wishes to get into Warhammer. These games are easy to pick, a little hard to follow at times with all the jargon thrown at you and the occasional lore dumps. But at the end of the day, both games serve their purpose, which is to keep us entertained. I love Space Marine 2, and I cannot wait for what's in store for Titus and what Saber Interactive will show us next. And that's all we have for this episode. I'm saying that to Bina. What do you think about Space Marine 2? And what Warhammer game should we try out next? Let us know in the comments, and if you want to see more episodes of Gaming Backlog, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. But for now, this has been Shell, and we'll see you again next week. For the Emperor!